Hi, good evening all. We are back again, the Meta Science Club, and this is a live chat that we're doing. This is the third live chat that we're doing. And today we have with us Dr. Catherine. She's a doctor from the Madras Veterinary College. She's finished a master's in wildlife science and right now doing a PhD in the same subject, wildlife sciences. She passed out at 2013, and as soon as she passed out, she has been working with one of our leading doctors in Chennai, Dr. Nagaraj. He's also one of our Madras Science Club members. An avid dog lover, an avid pet lover. Dr. Catherine has been helping us out in the Madras Canine Club in the pet checks for a long time as well. Welcome, Doctor. Thank you for coming in. I think this is a nice topic, caring for pets during COVID-19. Yes, I think this is something that everybody right now wants to know or wants to talk about. What I mean, like human beings, even pets are getting frustrated, locked up at home, I suppose, because they don't have anywhere to go out because people are not able to go out. They are not able to go out as well. So yes, this is something that I think is a topic that where everybody can relate to, I suppose. Okay, the first question that I'm going to put forward to you is this: uh, Can pets transmit COVID to their humans? One. Second, vice versa. Can the humans transmit whatever strain of COVID that they have to their loved ones, pets at home?
Good evening. I hope everyone is staying safe at home. So, like we all know, that COVID-19 is an acute respiratory disease which is transmitted by an infected person through some respiratory droplets, direct contact, and through contaminated surface or objects. So, although the number of cases in humans has exceeded millions in the world, the number of cases in animals is very, very tiny when compared to that of humans. So, the reports are not much in animals. As of now, we have 2 pet dogs and 1 pet cat in Hong Kong with no clinical signs, and 2 pet cats with mild respiratory illness in US, and 1 pet cat in Belgium, which were tested positive, with very less clear details apart from that wild felid in the US zoo, which was affected. So,
Yeah.
in all cases, they have been come in close contact with humans that were confirmed with COVID-19 positivity. So at this time, there is no evidence that pets play an important or significant role in spreading the COVID-19. There are different other types of coronaviruses. Actually, the COVID-19 is categorized under beta coronavirus, which affects only the humans. The alpha coronavirus is said to cause disease in both canines and felines. Of course, coronavirus affects the animals, but the COVID-19, which comes under beta coronavirus, does not affect animals as such. So, in felines and canines, they cause a condition called as feline infectious peritonitis, and in canines, they cause a condition like gastrointestinal issues, which is usually vomiting or diarrhea. It is said that the humans could have probably got the infection by consuming bats, because the coronavirus, the COVID-19, which they had isolated, is very much similar to that of bats. So they say it could have been come from the bat, but it is not yet narrowed down. The diagnosis has not been narrowed down. So there is no proper documentation of COVID-19 from animals to humans, but some say they might act as a fomite, the virus being on the pet's fur. So in that case, general hygiene in practice is enough, like washing your hands after you play with your pets, or we can avoid kissing our pets, letting them lick our face very often. Those things we can avoid at the crisis time. And these measures are very much sufficient to protect ourselves from COVID-19. It's also better to keep your pets indoors so that they are not exposed to the risk of getting the virus. So,
Okay. So you mean
although
that
there
is
has been very
okay? Go ahead. Yes,
although there
what
has
you
been very tiny number of cases, transmission from human to animal is only documented, and there is no evidence of transmission from pet to human as of now.
Okay. So the reason why you're telling to keep the dogs at home is basically the infection might latch onto their fur or their body or something, and when you touch it, it can transmit to you. That's the reason why you are. That's one of the reasons you're telling, right?
Yes, chances or probabilities are there, but we still
Okay.
do not have any confirmed cases on that.
Oh, okay. Right,
So,
Doc,
which
okay.
general precautions we can take?
Okay, so your regular whatever precautions that the government has told, like washing hands, changing your clothes, and all the stuff, so that
Yeah.
still applies. So you can still do that and be safe at the same time, right? That's what you're saying.
Yeah, avoid kissing your pets very often.
I don't think that's something that a lot of people will going to stop doing. But anyway, we'll say. Right. My next question is going to be something like caring for pets. So how do you? Okay, at this juncture, like where everybody is stuck at home, you're not able to do anything. The dogs need an exercise. The dogs need some kind of a let go, let relief, like all humans as well. Pets, for the matter of fact. That's not talking about dogs, but pets, for the matter of fact, need that. Need that
I'm not able to hear you. A little
Oh,
louder.
okay. Now, what do you do during this time of time? What are the carrying of pets at this time of during this period of time? How do you care for an
Yeah.
animal?
So when pets are considerably kept indoors, no, due to this lockdown, basically what you see is there is reduced in their physical activity. We completely cut down on taking them to walks, or we reduce the amount of time spent on taking them to walks. So reduced walking leads to a condition called as obesity, which we are all very familiar of. So especially in senior dogs and dogs like Labrador or Beagles, which have a sedentary lifestyle, are more prone to obesity. So, like for more than 40% of the global pet population seems to be obese. And the difference between overweight and obesity is like more than 10% the normal or ideal body weight. If it is more than 10%, no, it is called as overweight. If the body weight is more than 20% of the ideal weight, it is called as obesity. So complications of obesity is same as that of like how it is in humans, like arthritis, cardiac diseases, diabetes, and many more are also there. So to overcome this, what we can do is we can involve a pet in very frequent small play activities, or we can watch their calories, like how we can watch our calories. So we can stick on to a proper diet schedule for them. Like what happens is the human is also at home. When we junk, we also feed our pets. So they
No.
have the habit of eating from our table. So whenever the human junks, the pet also junks. So we can cut on those things. Suppose if your pet is on a specific commercial diet, it's always advisable to stick on to the prescribed manufacturer's instruction. Like if your pet's body weight is this is the amount to be given. So you always stick on to that, then there is no issue. Or else you can feed 2/3 of your pet's food, and 1/3 you can supplement with some fruits or vegetables, preferably if your pet likes it. Or some gravies, the pedigree gravy. So any other Royal Canin gravies, any gravy form you can give it to them because they need more of moisture. And
No.
due to the summer, you ensure that your pet is more hydrated. That is very
Yeah.
important.
That is yes. Doc, we have a question from one of our viewers, Jay. He is basically asking, how about walks of dogs? Can we use them to attend their nature call? Like taking the dog out for a walk. Is it like it's advisable, right? So you can take a dog out for a short walk or anything like that, or what do you say for that?
Yeah, that's what. So it depends upon the place you live in. Suppose if your area is an under red alert, it's preferably you don't take them out at all. That is one thing. But inevitably, or if the someone at home is under self quarantine or self isolation, you always have someone to walk your dog. So in that case, when your dog is going out, and some of them always have the dogs on leash even indoors. So in that case, you have two leashes when you take them out for a walk. Okay, and that you can do. Another one is preferably you can avoid them, or else within the garden or terrace, or train them into one particular area where they can do it, because toilet training is very difficult, because they might, and now after this lockdown issue, they might soil your house everywhere, or else they might be very frequently wanting to go out.
Okay.
So
Doc,
walking depends, you should restrict it to a very limited time
okay. Thank you. Thanks.
for the
Doc,
nature call also.
okay. What about behavior? Does a dog go through behavioral issues or changes during this kind of a containment time, like being confined in a single space for a very long time? Does any pet go through any behavioral changes, or do they stick on to their routine as such?
Yeah, definitely. Because suddenly everyone is at home and a lot of noise and activities happening at home, where usually the home is very quiet during the daytime. Now everyone is at home and it's very noisy, especially kids being 24/7 at home. They want a lot of cuddles with the puppy or the pet. And then suddenly you might have some more people at the same time in the house, someone feeling sick or stressed. All this can be affecting the pet's behavior also. Any drastic change in the regular routine always affects the pet. So what we can do is always you can stick on to a specific time. Like you're feeding your pet at a usual timing, you can always stick on to that, because now the general activity that changes in a pet's life is mornings walks. So morning, the first thing that we usually do is take it for a walk for its daily routine. Now that there is a cut down on it, so the pet will not understand why we are not taking it for a walk. So that could be one thing which is traumatizing, because it's only seeing a very confined place, so that that social detachment will be there for the dog. That could also be stressing for it. And otherwise, uh, some dogs which are indoor, no, and all the family members go out for work, so the morning is very peaceful for the dog. But now that everyone is at home, it is very noisy. The dog doesn't have a time to rest, or time some a private time for itself. There's no quality time with itself. So in that case, it will be agitated, because again, people wanting to pet, like first the father would have pet the dog and played with it, then followed by the mother and the kids playing with it. So it doesn't have a stress. So there's a change in its routine rhythm, and it gets agitated. So common behavior changes could be like growling, snarling, and scratching or biting. Sometimes they will try to hide and run, not wanting to play, because all the time it's being annoyed by people at home. So they'll try to
Yes.
hide or run. Attention seeking behavior can also be noticed, because suddenly people are there at home, so it wants more of love from its owner. So attention seeking behavior can be there. And sometimes it will not want to play very often. They will like to isolate themselves and take rest. So we really need to respect that activity in a dog. It can't be playing whole day. Just because you wanted to play, it cannot be playing the whole day. So you have to give it space. And then repetitive behaviors like spinning, like moving in circles, or trying chasing a tail, chasing the shadows, all these sort of behaviors can be noted in a dog. And then like you can keep the dog engaged by small frequent playing activities than exerting the dog with a prolonged play activity. The play
Okay.
time should be actually based on the mental status of the dog, health status, the age related issues. All that should be considered when you play with the dog. Just because you're
Okay.
at home and you want to give exercise for the dog, you can't be exerting the dog too much.
Too
So
much.
all this should be considered. And then change in sleep pattern, change in appetite can also be seen. So suddenly it will be awake all night and barking all night and sleeping all day. All this sort of change in patterns will be there. Change in appetite, like it can be more of craving for food, because the owner keeps chewing all the time, and the dog will also want to eat all the time. Another thing is they'll be chewing on scavenging items, or foreign body injection, like tearing clothes or chewing on fabrics, plastics. All this could be there. We need to be very careful on that, because they can cause a serious problem called as foreign body obstruction.
Okay.
So generally, to overcome all this, we need to stick on to the proper timing. Like I said, you have to keep the feeding, walking, and playtime the same.
Develop a routine for them as well. Like how we have developed a routine staying at home, or you also develop a routine for the pets that are there with you, right?
Yeah.
Okay,
So
we have
and
a.
then yeah.
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah, please go ahead. Yes.
Okay, so that's about the behavior aspect of, that we need to watch on with the dog. So
So we
and you
have
can spend
another.
more time on grooming, like because grooming creates a real bond with your dog, and also beneficial according to the health. Also, it improves circulation, removes the dead hairs. All that it helps. So you can employ yourself in grooming your pet more often, like
No.
twice a day, brushing them.
Brushing them down, giving them a bath at least a week or something, or once a week. Give them a bath, or twice a week, also give them a bath. Keep them going. Essentially.
Okay, so next is all the doubts that people have is about their vaccination schedule, and about they might want to neuter
Yeah,
their pet during the.
before that, can we just address this question that is there on the screen now? There's one Mr. Kumar who's asked itching and hair fall and some reddish on the body. So what do we do? I mean, I don't know whether he's got an access to a vet or we'll be able to take it to a vet. So do you have any advice for Mr. Kumar?
So if it is itching and he says there are red spots on the body, so we need to check out what could be the real reason for it. Whether the dog is allergic to some particular chemical, or was there a drastic change in its diet. All this we need to check, because some dogs could be allergic to some food conditions, like cutaneous adverse food reaction. In that case, if there's something newly introduced into its diet, it can be itching, or some chemical change, because now that they have all this COVID, they could have changed to different chemicals like disinfectants. Maybe that is not suiting the dog's skin. All that we need to check on. So that cannot be addressed over call. We need to see how
Yeah.
the dog is. Yeah.
Okay, I am pretty sure a lot of dogs are going to miss their vaccination routines, their injections that has been due or is going to be due, and the nutrition part of it. How do you tackle something like this, doctor?
So, like I said about vaccinations, and see, there is a priority for vaccination. So, there is a organization or a federation for all the veterinarians, like the British Veterinary Association. They have a prioritization for vaccination. Firstly, before we used to vaccinate them when they are 45 days of age. Now we can keep it like 8 weeks or not less than 8 weeks, and then within the 10th week we can get the first vaccine done. But since we ourselves are not going out because of the social distancing, there are no chances of us contacting resource for the infection for puppy. So in that case, we can wait for vaccination. The primary priority is for puppies that need to get the second vaccine because they have had
The
the
booster
first
you're
vaccine.
talking about. The
They have
booster.
had the first vaccine, so the antibody dilution will be there. So we need to go for the second booster. So whereas the puppies with the mother, they have this maternal derived antibodies. So vaccination can be postponed based on the conditions.
So
Like I said,
how
no,
long would you be able to postpone such a vaccination, doctor? Let's say, I mean,
we can keep it for a month or two. That's not a problem.
okay, so
Not in the
nothing.
very close. Yeah.
No.
Whereas the annual boosters, no, for the adult dogs, if your dogs or cats are kept indoor, you can always wait. Because again, like I said, we used to take our dogs out for a walk, or else we ourselves will be going out to our friend's place. Some of them have this habit of taking the new puppy to their friend's house, showing them, or you have guests coming in. So this way they can pick up some infection. Now, at this condition, since all that is not happening, the risk of exposure to disease is very, very minimal. So we can wait on vaccination, not a problem. And another thing is about neutering also. So everyone has this concept that since they're all at home, they can sterilize their pet or neuter their pet so that they can spend more time taking care of it. But again, this is not a medical emergency until and unless your vet feels it has to be done. Like for certain conditions like pyometra, like the pus in the uterus, or dystocia, where the delivery of puppies or kittens is being complicated. No, in that case, we need to go for a surgery like cesarean or something. So that the veterinarian will analyze and let you know if it is mandatory. Otherwise, neutering also can be postponed.
Oh, okay. Doc, we have another question from one of our listening. Yeah, see, summer has arrived and tick infection is pretty high, infestation is pretty high. Any preparations which we would like to follow to keep away tick infection? So yeah, I mean, this is
Yes.
something that everybody is going to have an issue with dogs and cats alike, like with ticks and fleas. So yes, how do you tackle something like this during at this point of time? Like, I mean, in the sense, during any other summer, we would be able to do a lot more other things. But with the limited resources in hand, how do you tackle this kind of situation?
So about tick infestation, yes, of course, it is very important because they are an important carriers of any protozoal diseases like E. canis or B. canis, which can be very life-threatening also. So in that case, precautionary measures about ticks is definitely needed. So I'm sure that every pet parent will be already informed about tick management. So in that case, if you know your pet's body weight, accurate body weight, you can just go to your vet, collect some medicines for that. You can tell them the body weight. They'll give you the spot on or any drug that is that they would like to suggest, and you can apply that. Or else, if you have any fipronil spray or something, you can apply that on your pet. But you should be very careful that they don't intoxicate the medicine.
Okay. So like give it in the right doses or something like I mean as such.
So if you have multiple pets, you have to treat them all at the same time.
Same time. Okay. Doc, you were talking about something like a triage kind of a triage tools for cats and dogs. What is that all about? Can you just give us a brief explanation?
Yeah, so the triage tool is actually about classifying the conditions into 4 different categories. One we call it as the urgent. Urgent is like something which is really important and you need a medical attention. All this is we have been categorized into 4 by the same association so that we do not expose ourselves to the risk of contracting COVID-19.
This triage tool is basically for this lockdown period, as such, right?
Yeah, this is to
help and
categorize the
facilitate.
diseases. Yeah, so that you don't often visit the things
Okay.
that need immediate attention, things which can be delayed. They have categorized it that way. So,
Okay.
for example, like a very urgent is seizures. So that is fits. So fit that lasts for more than 2 minutes or repeated episodes within the first 6 hours, and your pet is not in any epileptic drug. In that case, you need to go and visit your vet so that they help with the drug medication. and sudden collapse of your pet or paralysis, they're not able to stand up and such things. Being responsive to the environment, and there is obvious difficulty in breathing, and any major injuries like fracture or any punctured wound. So vomiting and diarrhea is also coming under urgent and something that can be delayed also, because vomiting and diarrhea, if it is more than 3 times a day and the animal is deteriorating, becoming very lethargic due to loss of electrolytes, then you definitely have to take them for a treatment. And any sort of heavy bleeding, obvious bleeding, or any deterioration in the condition because of bleeding, you need to consult your veterinarian. Intoxication is very important because they might happen to swallow anything like batteries, lead toxicity, or any rodenticide. All those things can cause toxicity in them, so you need to watch out for that. In case if there is any toxicity, anything abnormal, or you're sure that your dog had eaten some toxic substance, you can always rush to your veterinarian. So, and then there is one more thing like straining but not peeing. Like it wants to urinate, but there's no productive urination, it only strains. So all this kind of things comes under very urgent conditions. And there's one thing called as significant anaphylactic reaction. Anaphylaxis in the sense like some bites, like a wasp bite or something which is again allergic, but something which is even more severe. Like you do not know what it could be. It could be a sting that is becoming very severe for the dog. So those things need immediate medical attention. And potentially urgent things could be like intermittent difficult breathing, not very profuse difficulty, but it could be moderate to intermittent difficulty. And again, bleeding comes under this, but which is not life threatening. Maybe it's an external wound that we can arrest, something like that. And signs of pain, which can also be attended a little delayed way. Like you have some medicines to give it, but definitely after consulting with your veterinarian. Or chocolate injection. Chocolate is of course toxic for dogs, but not considerably like having a rodenticide. So those things you can put on for a weight, and you can see how your dog is reacting to all that. And in case if your dog is on some life-saving drug, like it has a cardiac issue or it has a seizure issue, and you run out of medicines, in that case you can consult your vet and fix a timing for you to go and get your medicine. Non-urgent.
Yeah, these are the urgent ones. What you listed out basically are the urgent
This can be little delayed.
Yeah.
You can wait for 1 or 2 days like that.
Okay. So these are the things that you basically need to go and seek the advice of a doctor physically to get the dog into whatever.
Yeah, these two come under that category. And then the non-urgent ones, which you can manage through a telecommunication, is consultation is like basically a review of a previous condition, or it is having itching, pruritus, or how someone has asked us about the itching. No, all this can be delayed a little bit with just by some oral teleconsultation, or any change in medicine consultation on change in drugs can be done over telecommunication. And then delayed thing is something like routine anal gland cleaning or nail clipping, because many of them are more conscious about grooming their pets, nail clipping and anal gland cleaning. So anal gland emptying can be delayed unless and until there is an emergency, like they have adenitis or something, then you can go for an urgent call.
Okay. So what about something like a lesion or an external bleeding, such as the dog is bleeding, and how do you tackle those kind of things? Those come under the same category of like where you have to take it to a doctor, or will you be able to help out? Can any doctor be able to help out with a call or just with a voice message or something?
Yeah, so external bleeding, you need to be sure about what sort of a bleeding it is, what could be the cause for it. Like suppose if it is a self-inflicted trauma, it has been chewing its body all the time and it has inflicted a wound, or while clipping the nail, you have inflicted a wound, or there is traces of blood in urine, or traces of blood in feces, or gum bleeding. All these things you need to note down. And of course, you can call your vet before you rush to the vet, because these are some things which you can postpone. So when you call up your vet, most of the times we have a call saying that the dog is bleeding. When we ask them from where it is, they have no idea from where it is. They just say we saw droplets of blood at home. So you should always be very sure before you call the vet, like where exactly the blood is coming from, and how much of blood is there, and how long it has been bleeding. And you can check the gums, so that like if it is a very profuse bleeding, they become pale, anemic, like pale they become. So you need to check the gum. If you can just, if possible, you can give them that information. And then you must be very clear about the worming history, because any blood in the stools can suggest of a deworming requirement. So all that you can note down, and you can let your veterinarian know about it. So again, about bleeding, If it is a very emergency condition, you should always consider the distance between your home and the clinic and the amount of bleeding, the severity of bleeding, because your dog might be profusely bleeding and you can't be traveling 15 kilometers to your vet. So if there's someone nearby, you can always attend to them. You can take your pet there. So you should be aware of what are the facilities near around your 1 or 2 kilometer radius. And then when you usually call your vet, the general advices could be like, if your dog is slightly bleeding, you can always keep them in a confined place so that they don't get excited and it causes more severe bleeding. Like suppose due to heat stress or any E. canis disease, no, they have epistasis, that is bleeding from the nasal passage. So in that case, if you agitate them or excite them, the amount of bleeding increases. If there is a coagulopathy, it increases, and it does, of course, sometimes makes a mess of the place. Some owners are not happy about it. So in that case, you always keep them confined so that they do not have a panic attack, like someone coming in all the time or disturbing them. That will increase anxiety. In that case, you can keep them confined, which itself will help in reducing the bleeding. And then another thing is, if there is like a nail cut wound, like I said, you can just give some pressure for 2 or 3 minutes, hold it in that place, and you can arrest the bleeding. So if it is a nasal passage bleeding, you can give cold compression on the nasal bridge, which will also help in arresting bleeding. If it is not controlled, then you can always call up your vet, inform them that you're coming, and you can go there.
Okay. Okay? I will ask you a question, Doctor. I mean, is the veterinary college working in a skeleton staff to address any this thing in Madras? How is it? What is the situation there?
Veterinary college is 24/7 open. Yeah, it is open anytime. You can rush your pet there. But again, you need to figure out what is an emergency. That's why I told you what are the emergency, what
So
are the
this,
things that can be delayed.
so this is the case all over India as well. Are you aware of other veterinary institutions in India also being open during this time of crisis, or do they have any restrictions
I think
on
every college is open 24/7. They have a casualty, the government hospitals, they
Yeah.
have a casualty. So again, you can't be traveling for 15 to 20 kilometers rushing your pet or where the bleeding. So you need to be aware of what are the facilities around your locality. Any 24/7 clinic there or any private hospital which can attend to it. You always need to be aware of that.
Okay.
So that you
Um,
don't waste so much of time in traveling.
Okay. I just want to, Mr. There's one person who's asked a question, Mr. Jain. To address your question, yes, Dr. Catherine had already spoken about this. So this is basically like what he has asked is his dog is not eating and wants to get out of the apartment. Dr. Catherine was saying just give them a routine, like how we all have a routine. You also need to give your pet the routine for it to get used to the present situation as such. Yeah, they would have been used to a different kind of a routine altogether before the lockdown started. With the lockdown in effect and with us not being able to go out and stuff, so I think yeah, you develop a routine with your dog in which where you can make it eat. That is the best that you can do at the moment. Yes, hopefully this should all end pretty soon. To address Mr. Chowdhury's couple of questions, Mr. Chowdhury, okay. The beds are not available at wood clubs. Okay, okay. This is something that as Meta Skyline Club is doing it at a very this thing as a service to others. We are trying to educate people about dogs, and yes, we brought in Dr. Catherine to talk about the issues that are prevailing and affecting people who have this thing. Other clubs, I have no idea, but you can yes always reach out to your local vet who will be able to help you. That is the best advice that I could do. And in regards to can various clubs under KCI set up dedicated helplines, that is something that I don't think I'll be able to answer, Mr. Chaudhary. That's a different thing altogether as such. Dedicated helpline, yes. I mean, they would be able to do it, I suppose. I'm not very sure because it is an all India organization that needs to take a call on that. This is something that we are trying to educate the people, educate the dog owners, pet owners as such, not just dog owners, pet owners, and give them a little bit of information on how we can handle emergencies or crisis, emergencies during this period of crisis as such. Uh,
Yeah,
Anything
all
else that
that
you
tell me.
please go ahead, go ahead. I just want to know whether you have anything else to
All
add
that
on.
I'm talking to you is about the emergencies which the association, the British Veterinary Association or the British Small Animal Veterinary Association has given us. So these are the emergencies that they themselves have categorized to, and they have explained what has to be done. So I thought this would be ideal for the pet owners and like what sort of remedies they can resort to, or what sort of things that they need to look out before they could call to the vet. That's what I'm briefing you about.
I'll just list out the emergencies that you are basically told so that people can also get an idea, doctor. So these are the emergencies that the doctor is basically talking about. He's explained it point by point, but these are the emergencies like external bleeding, abdominal dysentery, pain, trauma, any swelling of mass lesions, lameness, seizures, intoxication, vomit, diarrhea, and dermatology. So these are the emergencies that you basically are talking about, right? So this is one that has been listed out and the scheme as you can see. Yeah, depending on the severity, depending on the issue at hand, yes, you can always reach out to your veterinary college which is very close by, or to the doctor that you have been going to, or you can give them a call. I mean, they'll always be. I mean, all doctors would be always there to help you out in this time of emergency as such. We are right about running out of time, Doctor. Would you like to add anything, conclude by saying anything as such, Dr. Jain?
Sorry?
No, would you like to add anything more, or we're just running out of time? We'll be able to like do one last thing and we'll be running out of time.
Okay, so like abdominal distension, I said no. We'll be overfeeding those deep-chested dogs. So what happens is when you show so much of love, you feed more with your dogs. After a heavy meal, if they have an exercise, they can go for a condition called as GDV. So that's really fatal, you know. So you need to part your feeding, like increase the frequency of feeding and decrease the quantity in deep-chested dogs, so that they do not have exercise after severe feeding. And then abdominal distension could be also because of a condition called as pyometra, which is pus in the uterus, which is usually in the female dogs. You need to look out for some vaginal discharges. If all this like foul smelling discharge or something is like that, you can always let your veterinarian know about it, and he or she will guide you about what has to be done. So like I said about neutering, it again comes with this condition. So we are running short of time, right?
Yeah, no. So like, yeah, anything to finish, please go ahead and continue. No, not a problem.
Anything specific? Okay, so about pain management, I think pain really panics every owner. So when you feel that your pet is in pain, mainly lameness. So lameness is good. The pain that we obviously see is lameness. Like they don't stand up, they are very reluctant to walk. All that could be there. So you need to watch out where the exact pain is. If there is an abdominal pain, they always try to sit in a praying horse position, or they seem to be crouching like that. They used to sit. So in that case, they have a severe abdominal pain. You can always look out to these signs. And if you're having a geriatric dog, that is a senior dog, it could have arthritis, or there might be difficulty in sitting and standing. A few steps, it could limp a few steps, and then they can walk properly. All these are signs that you can always look out. So before you call up your veterinarian, you can always take a video or a photo of the pain sign which you feel needs to be attended, and you can send that to your veterinarian, inform them, then they can have a look at it and they'll let you know. Like mainly what you have to report to them is like when did it start, or whether it's progressing or it has been stagnant. And if it is of lameness of limbs, you need to tell them like if it is a shifting lameness, and when you touch the limb, you can see whether it's very hot or cold. All these signs you can tell them, and your vet may suggest of any appropriate analgesic or any drug, but please don't give paracetamol or painkillers on your own. Always consult with your veterinarian and give them, because paracetamol can always be toxic to your dog, and for cats it's very fatal.
Yes, do not self-medicate. We don't self-medicate. My suggestion is don't self-medicate the dog as well. Seek always a professional's advice and help in this. Yes, they are always a phone call away. Dr. Catherine, thank you so much for joining us today. And I am pretty sure Dr. Catherine is on Facebook and Twitter, and whatever questions that she would be able to answer. If you have any, you can always put it in our comment section in our Metascience Club page, and we would love to address it. We would love to take on questions. So any questions that you guys have, please do share. And if we have experts like Dr. Catherine telling what to do and what not to do, my suggestion is follow the same. Thank you so much, Doctor, for giving us this valuable time on a Sunday evening and chatting with us and educating educating the people with the information that you have given us. Thank you so much, Doctor. Okay, we will be our next live interaction will be with me and one of our own members of our Metascience Club, JSMR. It's going to be about our club, the organization Metascience Club, the dog shows that we conduct, and the little about KCI that we could tell. What is KCI and what is the objective of KCI and such like that. So stay tuned. It's going to be on 6/5/2020. That's next Wednesday. Doctor, once again, thank you so much for being today evening, spending this valuable time with us, Doctor.
Thank you so much for the opportunity. I hope it was informative to the parents, and thank you for the opportunity once again.
Thank you so much, Doctor. Guys, see you next week. Tune into our page again next Wednesday. So catch you there again. Bye, guys.